November 19th, just after 2 p.m. EST, 7 p.m. UTC. And today we have a pre recorded episode. Actually, our guest could not make it at the scheduled time. So Marty took it upon himself gracefully and graciously as well to pre record with Dime at Crypto Paradigm if you're new here. So we will remove ourselves from this. I'll let the video play, and I hope you all enjoy.
November 19th. We got a big day. We're actually recording a day before, so you'll hear it the next day. But tomorrow we have NVIDIA earnings, post-market, and, crypto's nuking. What are we going to do? Today we got Dime on. Everybody knows him from CT. Dime, how's it going?
Very well, Marty. How are you?
Alive and well. Minus these nuking coins of ours. I seem to be living and breathing.
What do you mean ours? Not sidelined?
No, I'm in. No, we're always holding spot. We're an options market maker. We always need spot, but we're always hedging out spot. We're always moving around. Thank God we only trade Bitcoin and ETH, or else I think we'd be in a different situation trying to trade altcoins, meme coins, and especially like altcoin options, right?
Absolutely. I have not yet traded altcoin options. Those always struck me as particularly dangerous and not super liquid, but obviously ETH and BTC are in a different situation. Yeah, no, I mean, this whole cycle, other than Sol and Hype and ETH briefly, it's not been good for altcoins. I'm like, we know that at this point, but man, it's been disappointing if you were banking on an alt season.
I think majority of CT is always banking on an alt season, and it ended up just becoming a meme. One thing about altcoin options is a lot of it trades OTC. There's not a lot of options tradable on exchanges. When you look to buy an altcoin option, it's almost like the maker is throwing a dart at the board and picking the IV. It's a 100 vol product. It's a 250. It's a 500. At some point, they're guessing, and you have to sit in their shoes. And you have to think, if somebody's coming to me and wants to buy $100,000 of some altcoin option or more, what do they know? Why is now all of a sudden, there's a new influx and a new, there's a suspicion from the maker that they know something that I don't. So they price it accordingly. I guess we kind of just jumped right into it. But for the people who don't know you want to give a little explanation of who you are, how you came to be, and why CT?
Yeah, sure. I'm Dime. The handle is at Crypto Paradigm. I assume there's a lot of overlap in our following. So I assume most people probably know me on some level. I got into Bitcoin in 2013, tried to buy my first coin at $60, failed. A friend actually told me about it in 2012 before anyone had even heard about it. Brushed it off, was like, not interested, don't care. It's drug money. Who's going to use this, etc. And from there, I just, for the first, from 2013, I bought the top of 2013 and then proceeded to just be a Bitcoin maxi. It was so easy to be a Bitcoin maxi in those early years because nothing else had proven itself or even come close. Bitcoin had the most simple thesis, just kept buying Bitcoin. I was making $15 an hour for a long time and just buying Bitcoin with every paycheck, saving every bit I could, and managed to build up a respectable stash, especially if you valued it in today's prices. And then I kind of started to mess around with trading. And after losing everything after the 2018 nuke, watching my portfolio go minus 80%, never selling a single coin, I was like, I need to learn how these market things work. And I had already been posting on Twitter, but I wasn't really getting any real traction. I was just a guy that liked Bitcoin, and CT was relatively small at the time, so it was easy to make friends and talk about coins. And there's probably at the start, maybe 10 or 20,000 of us max, and that's all time zones and whatever. But crypto Twitter was very, very small, and we just kept logging in every day. And then throughout the 2019 to 2021 bull market, I just kind of self-taught myself how to trade, and I have no formal education in it. All of this is vibes and trial and error and figuring out how all of this works and getting wrecked and liquidated multiple times. And you remember my article where I talked about literally coming back from zero last cycle. And I had to lose a lot and learn a lot of lessons in the trading game. And from there, I kind of came into this cycle as someone that was a little bit more laser focused on like what's happening. And I really just kind of dialed in for this whole cycle and didn't do anything truly stupid like I had done in previous cycles. And it worked out really well for me. Obviously, my Twitter following has grown quite a bit. I think I started the cycle with like 30 or 40,000 followers. Now I'm pushing into 80, I think. And I don't know, like I'm a guy that enjoys markets at this point. I think they're entertaining. I think the social aspect has gotten really, really out of hand, but in a fun way. Now we have prediction markets and all kinds of crazy stuff. And just being able to trade every crypto asset on the planet with a few clicks is just an absolutely novel experience considering where we came from. And I guess you want to know like why I'm still here. And I'm still here because this place is limitless entertainment. Like I've seen FinTwit, I've seen sports Twitter, I've seen every corner of Twitter.
Have you ever been to tipping Twitter?
That sounds
Dude.
like really
Dude.
poor.
Hell. If you say anything that you're a bad tipper, the world comes after you. It's insane.
That kind of tipping. Oh, I thought
Yeah,
you meant
yeah.
like people begging for money.
No. Like restaurant tipping Twitter. It's a new side of Twitter I hadn't stumbled upon until more recently.
I didn't know that existed.
There's different corners of this world that you don't want to venture into. Even in the crypto space, we have tons of influencer awards in Dubai of people, we never even heard of that guy before. There's different subsections of CT.
Yeah. CT has definitely gotten a lot more gross. Like there's always been influencers and key opinion leaders, but it was much more informal. It was just like undisclosed chill deals and things like that. We used to see tons of them back in the day, but it was so informalized. And this cycle, it was much more formal. Like it was KOL agencies and various corporations just buying up influencers in one form or another, getting them to promote their projects or their podcasts or whatever, just to get more attention. Because influence and reputation are everything in this space. And really, my most valuable asset at this point is the fact that I haven't rugged anybody. I got out of the meme coins without anyone hating me, which can't say that about everyone.
That's a first.
Right. And crypto Twitter is just always a unique information dissemination platform. And on top of that, it's a bit of a coping mechanism for dealing with drawdown between cycles. Because remember, this is a multi-year time-based asset class that we're dealing with. Then it's only good during certain periods of time with certain economic conditions. And the other 90% of the time, it's just awful to be here. And obviously you can log out and go do other stuff, but crypto Twitter has just kind of evolved into this entertainment matrix to keep us all occupied and logging in, learning about whether it's like why Zcash is pumping or learning about how meme coin economics work or where we are in the Bitcoin cycle and like what's going on with the ETFs, like whatever topic in crypto you want to learn about, someone is talking about it 24/7. It didn't used to be like that 10 years ago, just because there was not many of us. I already touched on that, but it was a completely different space where really unique characters got to stand out really hard. And now it's even harder to stand out. Like if you asked me to like restart my Twitter account from zero at this point, I don't even know how I'd do it.
Yeah, I'm not sure where you start. I mean, the only reason we have any original claim to fame was we were on like FTX leaderboards. We were like top 10. And then I created a Twitter account. So that was more recent, right? Before that, I was never on crypto, on crypto Twitter, but I had been in the space, always involved in Bitcoin and, trading perps and options and things like this, but never like a public space to speak about it, like the good old CT. And
there's a lot of, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, and just, chilling myself, talking a little bit about myself.
You are pretty cool.
We saw somebody attack us on the CT. I don't know how, but somebody basically like got our account banned for a 6-month-old comment because, those ambulances that are trying to get through like protests or something and they're blocking them. I was like, why don't you just run through them? Like a bad joke or whatever. And some, it was definitely targeted and it got the whole account nuked. And then I had to restart an account and I think we hit 15K more recently. So I had to build back from zero, but I was already known, it wasn't that I just started from scratch again as a nobody. I'm not sure where you start now. I think that there's some smaller accounts that have done good, shout out to Little Quant and people like that posting their actual journey of learning to code, what data they're pulling, how they're doing it, and giving the information away for free, because as they're learning, they're just posting their journey. And people like more organic things than, paid shills or rugs or whatever else we're dealing with this week on the timeline.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is that unless you have a gimmick, a story, a reason for people to click and enjoy your content, like it's hard. Like it took me, I think, 6 years just to hit like 10,000 followers. And then and I hit 10,000 followers the week that Up Only started, not the podcast, but the 2020 markup when prices started going vertical. And after that, it's just been like adding 10,000 followers every like 5 months or so. And it just like, it got really out of hand and went vertical.
So the people want to know, did you sell your account, Dime? Are we talking to a fake Dime?
No, I'm the same guy that's been logging in for a fucking 12 years. I just had my anniversary. Thank you for reminding me, X.
The little balloons.
It's like, I mean, yeah, exactly. Crypto Twitter at this point is like my I don't want to say it's my life, but it's like I enjoy being here. I have really good friends. I have really good connections. The people who know me on Crypto Twitter know me better than my own real life friends at this point. Like they get to see all the thoughts that I let out of my head. And sometimes that's for the better and sometimes it's for the worse. But I'm trying to be unapologetically myself and just be honest. And I think crypto people are just generally more open to people being honest because we live in the most honest market on the planet. And I know it doesn't feel honest all the time, but it's so honest about whether or not coins are going up, coins are going down, coins are a scam, coins are the future of finance. In an open architecture that like we have with crypto, you have to be honest. And honestly, sorry, I don't mean to say honest so many times, but honestly, it's a huge boon for the space that we're functioning on such an open architecture. And sometimes that means people say and do embarrassing things and get caught. And sometimes it means that reputations get ruined overnight. But, it's all real time people making up the future of finance. I hate that phrase, but that's what we're doing. And it's fun to have like instant responses to whatever thought you have. It's fun to have a community of people that are in alignment with your finances in some way. Cause like what's good for my bags is good for your bags most of the time. I don't know. Crypto Twitter is just the most unique experience I've ever had. And I like being here. Obviously I'd like to walk away someday, but good luck with that. Like it's so hard. Obviously people like Angelo and even Kobe to an extent have like stepped back from like the kind of posting they used to do, or they've had to change, or even Jim the cat.
Yeah, Jim the cat.
They used to like post setups. They used to post more active content that you could leverage to make money and things like that. And obviously that gets more complicated once you like get over 100,000 followers. Like that gets really messy. And I'm not at that point yet, but feels like the next 2 or 3 years, I'm probably going to get there. And we'll see what happens. But I like this place.
Hasaka, Degen, Spartan, Alex Wise. Dude, I don't know if you remember King Pepe Alexander, the Australian guy. Do you remember that guy at all?
I remember him. I forget why he's gone.
He ran up from being a regular Joe, from my understanding, to hundreds of millions of dollars in realized and unrealized, just hundreds of millions of dollars of profit in general. He changed his life, all this stuff. And then he blew up around FTX or whatever it was, like to zero. And there's something with the Australian tax code, like you can't write off something or what, so he owed like $40 million or something. And he was like, I don't have any money. I'm negative. And it was actually, sad to see the whole cycle of this guy, that we see through the screen. I try to comment once a year or something on his page, like, hey, we're all here for you. No response yet, but it was him crashing out. And then he had some animals and some family issues. And he's posting his reality on the timeline, and everybody's, here to support him, and doesn't matter what people are going through. But that was an insane run. I think it was that 2020 to FTX cycle. And, some people don't know when to leave, not necessarily leave crypto Twitter, but when to leave the markets. That's enough money to F off and park it in T-bills, and you could be just fine forever. It doesn't sure, inflation can eat away at it, but cash for 5 years your life doesn't change that much.
No. I vaguely remember this. I also remember going through my followers early 2023 just to like clean them out because like people disappeared and whatever. I swear I found like 40, 50, 60 people that I had known for years and followed, and they just stopped tweeting after November or so, 2022. And I was like, oh man, FTX got him. SBF won. I mean, I don't know if he won, but like he got him.
Yeah.
And it's just depressing. Like you don't know what happened to all these people. Like this guy might have unalived himself. This guy might have just quit, crashed out, and been like, I'm done with crypto. Like just so much destruction. And I just remember being depressed about it for a few days because I was thinking about it. And I was just like, there's so many unheard stories from the trenches that we're never going to know. And even the meme coin trenches, like I'm sure there's plenty of blood in those trenches. But
dude, the Solana trenches this year or whatever, this cycle, absolutely hosed, and I think that this conversation we're having now isn't a conversation that's out there. People don't talk about the reality. Sure, there's a thread and, what you could have done if you made $100 million, but nobody ever sits back and, thinks about the good old days and our good friends that we used to talk to. And then, they just don't log back in.
There was this guy a long time ago in like the very early days of crypto Twitter. His name was literally the Rich Douche.
Hell yeah.
And I don't know if you ever heard about him or anything, but he was like really funny. He would have been prime influencer if he was still around today. I don't know what happened to him. I heard that his child got some disease and passed away, and he just disappeared after that. And I'm not sure I blame him. I don't know. Maybe he's under a new name. I don't know. I always really liked his influencer-ish attitude, and it's hard to forget. It's easy to forget that like everyone on here, except for the bots, they have a whole life going on. They have needs, they have wants, they have a story, they have everything going on. And all we're really talking about is like coins go up, coins go down, like share, and we're discouraged from sharing too much about our personal lives just because like some of us are very wealthy at this point, and it's like it's a security concern. And it's also just like, I don't need that on the internet. The internet is literally forever. And it's part of the interesting part of crypto is because we attracted, just by the nature of the cryptocurrencies themselves, we attracted the most forgotten corners of the planet. Like in regards to people most hit by 2008 were the people that were most likely to buy Bitcoin, like the people who were completely fed up with the system. And there's so many good stories out there, but not everyone wants their stories out there. And I don't really like put myself out too much, but I put enough out that like I'm a person, I'm hanging out, I'm spending time with all these people every day. Like there's got to be a little bit of level of give and take. But we're living in interesting times and working with an asset that is literally changing the world, changing finance and changing how we deal with value transmission around the globe. And a lot of that just gets forgotten because we're all just our funny little profile pictures and our various connected memes. Like everyone remembers the hot tub incident for me, even though it wasn't super my fault, but still just the thing I remembered for. And it's just fairly funny at this point.
Yeah, I mean, we have cats buying tanks. Like we're at the peak internet. This is the greatest time to be alive,
Yeah. Cats buying tanks, I forgot about that.
Yeah, and then he's like, can somebody store my tank? Just I've met at this point, hundreds of people from CT, from different institutional guys to retail guys, from whales to, guys starting out. And I've never had one bad experience. Like, this guy's a fucking weirdo. I need to get out of here. I traveled a bit with my wife and we met maybe 50 people in a few months traveling around doing the conference season one year. We met tons of people that we talk to today. So now every time we go travel, we have tons of friends around, we have connections around, if you're listening to this and, I know we've been going off for 20 minutes about CT and friendships and things like that, but, really put yourself out there. Don't be a fucking weirdo. Provide people, good insights or at least the experience that you're going through and the things that you're learning. And if it's organic, people will see that and they're attracted to you. I don't want to say attracted, but like that brings positive and good energy and that's attracted to you versus shilling meme coins or trading shitters or, just scamming people. Like that's not the energy that brings positivity your way.
I think the more accurate way to say that is like be someone that has character, and some level of character, conviction, and integrity are like the real currencies outside of actual Bitcoin and Ethereum and whatever. Like those get you further, because you only have those like once. And if you break the people's trust, if you rug something, if you implode an exchange, if you dump on your followers, like people, the core CT doesn't forget, but the rest of the space can. But just having those qualities and traits like is probably like the foundation of being a good influencer. Like you could just look at Kobe, the fact that people will trust him to escrow $5 million for on a whim.
Good.
That's trust you can't buy. Like that's a level of public trust that every corporation wishes they had. Like for people to trust them with that kind of money, to whether it's custody or whether it's just enabling a deal to go through or an escrow or whatever. And those are the intangible valuables in this space.
Yeah, I've lost 2 public crypto Twitter bets. I'm 0 for 2. And every time I'm like, dude, I'm not escrowing. Like ask around who I am. Like I'm sure if you have Kobe to escrow, sure, but like not escrowing with some random person, you know? One was with McKenna. It was like a 1-year bet. We just settled it the other like couple weeks ago. No problem, you know? So I'm 0 for 2. You know, I'm always the one paying out, but I'm not going to escrow a deal unless it's Kobe. Kobe can escrow it, but anybody else is untrustworthy.
What about
Dude, we can put you up for a escrow. I mean,
Hell
I
yeah.
was so close. I was off by 2 weeks. If it was now, so basically I bet McKenna that Hype and Fartcoin would be under whatever October's price from last year. And if one was above and one was under, it pushed. If both were above, he cashes. If both are under, I cash. And it was, I don't know, a couple grand. And 1 year later, we circle back in the DMs and, you know, it's coming close. And I start talking shit in the DMs and, you know, it's getting closer. And if the bet was 2 weeks longer, we would have pushed because Farcoin would have went to closer to 0 than 1. And Hype, I think, was kind of around the same price in the 30s. I think it was like high 28s or something when we started it. So it would have been above and Farcoin would have went lower. But, you know, it's fun things like that we get to do with our newfound friends online. And it's a new space and I always enjoy it. There's never a horrible day on CT. If it's that bad, and if you're just reading stuff, you know, you can just turn it off and go outside. When the price is nuking 5% every day, you know, maybe you want to take a couple days off and come back. But I'm a religious user. I'm a daily user.
Sometimes bad things happen. I mean, remember we just saw FTX, we saw 1010. Like bad things do happen. Obviously, it's like different for cozy spot holders that self custody and people that are actively leveraged up with their entire net worth. So, and a lot of this is just like shared communal knowledge over the years that you have to just learn to experience, or someone has to tell you. But most of the time people learn the hard way, unfortunately. Yeah, I'm going to tangent off. I don't know what I was talking about.
I mean, it's a community of trust, right? And if we all have bad days, we're all in it together. If we're all having good days, we're all having it together. But when we initially started the podcast, you said that you were untrained, not in the finance space, not a professional trader, not a CFA guy, not any of that. And now you're here, you're slinging size on options, TradFi and crypto. Kind of want to go through your trading journey from where you started, which I'll assume a little bit went from spot to futures or perps and then into options because you found out that options were superior in every single way, shape, or form. But, you know, I'm happy to hear about your transition from the beginning to what got you into trading, you know, on leverage, and then kind of where you sit now and the plays. And that progression is always nice for people to hear.
Yeah. So I kind of touched on it earlier, but basically I was like a cozy spot Bitcoin holder, stocks. I didn't know how options or derivatives worked at all. I didn't really have time to because I was working full time. And about summer 2019, I finally quit my job after like 5 years. So I'm like, okay, I want to like learn to trade for 6 months, milk my unemployment benefits, and just see if I can do this, like see if I'm any good at it. And it was a learning curve. Like I had days where I would like lose K and I had days where I'd like make K. But I started kind of with options and in the trading journey, that is. And I was just doing options. I was taught how to do them just by kind of trial and error. And but the problem was like I didn't know like what good options were and what bad options were and what's a good trade. I didn't know how to recognize narratives of like what's going up, what's going down. I was just kind of like using very surface level technical analysis, moving averages and like option flow. And I still use those this day, but I've refined my methods a little bit. I'd always messed around with like perps and leverage trading. I mean, I started trading on BitMEX in like 2018, 2019, which is the worst time to get started. Quickly learned like I loved winning on leverage, but I was losing more than I was winning. And to this day, BitMEX has 3 or 4 of my Bitcoin that I lost in the insurance fund. It's not my Bitcoin anymore, obviously, but it's fun to pretend. And from there, I just kind of like got deeper and deeper. And we went into like 2019, 2020, and I just started leaning into FTX. Like as soon as like my FTT went from like $3 to $40, I was like, yes, we're going to fucking run this. So I just kind of like full bore into FTX, fully bought into the platform, added more and locked up my FTT and just started like trading every dog shit perp that was out there. It was really sweaty. Like I'll be super honest. We were all locked inside. We were dealing with the COVID era and just printing money off of the markets. And I was just going deeper and deeper and deeper down the risk curve, experimenting with like liquidity providing on early Radium and things like that. It really just was a downward spiral. I was a genius, don't get me wrong, a bull market genius, but it just got worse and worse once the final tops got in. And I just kept trying to long because I didn't have anything else going on in my life. And I think a lot of people fall into that trap where the dopamine you get from trading is the only thing you got going on, especially during COVID when we couldn't go outside, couldn't go to the gym, couldn't do anything. But I got especially hit hard by that. And by the end of 2022, I got zeroed. Like I wrote that article about it. If anyone wants to go check it out, it's on my profile. But I lost pretty much everything during 2022 and had to like get a job and like do all of that stuff, which I know you're not supposed to admit on crypto Twitter, but you'd be surprised. A lot of us
McDonald's
are employed at this point.
is calling soon to a lot of people.
Exactly. And so I had to like really have like a moment of personal capitulation in 2022. Like I had a full year to like think about things. Just, I wasn't like broke 0, but I was like, it was my zero. And I had to like really come to Jesus or come to Satoshi, however you want to phrase it. And
Archangel Vitalik.
Archangel, I don't know about that. But I had to really like calm down, think about everything I had learned, think about all the losses I took and like, what did I do wrong? Like, how did I mess this up so bad? And I eventually started to be like, okay, spot and limited options seems like a more productive path for building wealth than logging every 15-minute dip on the Bitcoin chart on 100x leverage or whatever leverage you're using.
Any leverage at some point. Like
any
I
leverage
think
at some point.
we back tested. If you're at X leverage, you're probably going to get liquidated. Like at some point during the market cycle, unless you buy the absolute peak of bottom. Like you can't just ape and pray. You have to have some edge.
I 100% agree. It's like if all you do on leverage trading is buy big capitulation days like 10-10, like yeah, you can consistently make money, but those events are 6 to 8 months apart. They don't happen super often. Anyway, I basically like leaned into a series of narratives this cycle. And that was the Bitcoin ETFs, Solana, crypto TradFi, so like Coinbase, the stock. And I just like hyper concentrated into like a fixed set of positions. I didn't make them my personality, but I didn't sell any of the Bitcoin ETFs until like February of this year. Like, and that's how I made like the bulk of my money this cycle. But I also had a series of like large wins that I had spot and options on. ARM Semiconductors had a really, really big day. You remember that one?
Classic ARM.
Super classic. And I just looked for a series of coinciding variables. I saw that someone was shoving options on this very, very hard. It was heading into earnings and there was like a shortage of shares. The semiconductor AI narrative was kind of starting to take form. And I was just kind of like gut feeling, bull market. There's a lot of signals here. And I just tried to do that 5, 6, 7 times with size. I sized up as I grew my account, but I also maintained like core positions. I mean, you only have to do it if you have enough size. You only have to do it 3 or 4 times to pull yourself out of zero and really start to like build back. And even if you start with 10,000, if you have like 300% wins in a month, you can make money. And then on top of that, we had Solana, which obviously like did a, I don't know, what was it, 6x from the bottom, 8 to 150. I forget what the math is, but I had a nice spot bag of Solana from $20.
I had to delete Solana from my
Your watch
watch
list?
list.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no.
yeah. I had to delete it because when Solana was down 5 times a week, which I still make the joke. If Cozy if he was here, we would make the joke together. Like, yeah, screw Solana, it still goes down. Like, of course, that's not true. But ever since it was going down 5 times a week, I nuked it from my mind and my charts, and I feel better, dude. I feel much better. I had a moment where I only used the stock app. It's much better for you. You feel better. You
What do you mean
don't
the stock app?
on your iPhone. You just put your spot positions in the stock app and you check it US hours only because, if you're trading stocks, it's closed anyways. And you can check crypto on the weekend. But I had a moment where I was like, trading views too much. I'm looking at way too much information. It's information overload. And it's not helpful to anybody to be looking at all this garbage every day. More screens does not equal more money. And like you had mentioned, just having some conviction and putting on some size. People forget $10,000 is a lot of money, 100,000 is a lot, and of course, million is a bunch, and above that is probably enough to retire for most people. People forget that the amount of money for CT. We make the joke that 10 million is not enough to retire. It probably is for majority of people. So I had a moment of like 6 months where I only used the iPhone stock app for mental clarity, sizing in position, spot only, or borrowing a little margin to get some plays in TradFi. But you had ARM, you had Nvidia. Before I was in Nvidia, before Nvidia like took off, and before the ChatGPT craze happened, there's a lot of simple wins. Like if you're using it every single day, it might be a good thing to buy. If the business is good, it's run by good leaders, they have solid cash flow, solid profits. If it's something you use every single day, it's more than likely a good buy.
That's
You
literally
have-
what the boomers did. They bought Pepsi, they bought Coca-Cola, they bought Home Depot, they bought McDonald's. Like these are all like like they're obviously not as great of a risk vehicle or even a wealth building vehicle for us, just because they've kind of like grown with the boomers over the last 50 years, and their dividends, unless you like shove $5 million into them, like you're not going to live off those or anything. But a lot of boomers just like bought McDonald's in the 80s and now they're up 10 billion% or whatever. That worked well for them. And Bitcoin was kind of our moment to do that as well. And some of us capitalized on it. But I agree with you regarding like information overload. I've had to trim my watch list way back. Like I still have friends that are like moving from position to position to position on like a daily basis, who are just taking like daily trades and whatever. And I'm kind of just like, no, I'm just going to sit in cash and wait for the market to tell me that it's time to like go in and don't look back. And I don't think we're there yet, but that's really what I did in 2023 is like I just put everything into like 2 or 3 really good trades and waited, and that has worked. And I sleep like a baby, no leverage open. I think I took 3 leverage trades this entire cycle, and I just hated it. It doesn't throw me anymore.
There's something called the overnight drift anomaly. It's basically that things move while you sleep, and a lot of the gains happen overnight. So trying to day trade positions or, buy in the morning and sell at close is probably not the best long-term thing. It's called the overnight drift anomaly for anybody who wants to look more into it. It's basically imagine that other people are doing all the hard work for you and all you have to do is hold it. That sounds like the easiest playbook I've ever heard of. And you get this overnight drift and overnight gains that you compound and you can grow, and you do see growth more than just holding throughout the day. I would say for us, it was Bitcoin that you could have bought. if you miss Bitcoin, I mean, Samsung is growing gigantic. Apple, Nvidia only really took off because of like this AI thing. But, of course, they were every AMD and Nvidia are in every computer around the world. Things that you see with your own eyes and good companies, they're probably an easy bet. I think we're seeing not like like market cap is a meme kind of thing, but when gold goes to 30 trillion in a couple weeks and, Nvidia is pushing 4 trillion, like we just saw the first $1 trillion company not too long ago.
Who was
Now we
that?
have,
Was that Amazon?
I think it was Amazon or Apple.
One of those. Yeah, no, it's getting ridiculous out here.
But there's only more that are coming, and they're going to go from zero or hundreds of billions to trillions faster than we've ever seen before. Not just American companies, but Chinese companies as well. And there's plenty of opportunity. The world isn't ending on like everybody says on crypto Twitter. Sure, our coins are going to fucking zero, but the rest of the world doesn't care about the coins. There are other markets to trade. And now we're starting to see, no shill to Hyperliquid, but we're starting to see, and what's the other? We just had him on. Ostium. She's actually really smart, dude. The Ostium lady. I like talking to her. She was a sharp for sure. But we're starting to see like perpetuals and on-chain tradable TradFi products. I would be a little wary of these because let's say, she even said it herself, the Ostium lady, like, oh, if we go down, like you go down with us, basically. Where if you hold shares at a brokerage, you have this thing called brokerage insurance. It's like FDIC insurance, but for brokerage shares. And the shares will move from the closed brokerage to a brokerage account of your choice because at the end of the day, you're the beneficiary of the shares. You own the shares. The brokerage is just the holding company, basically the managing party that holds it, but you actually own the shares and you can move them. So be a little wary of trading these on-chain products. I know it sucks to on and off board constantly and all of this, but especially in the perps land, you get these crazy wicks that you wouldn't see. We saw it in PaxG, where you're not going to see buying gold. You're not going to see buying CFDs. You're not going to see buying physical gold, right? But you could have got liquidated on PaxG like your boy Marty. And the next day it was 4K. It got wick to 3,500, and then the next day it was like 41, 4,200, 4,300. That within that week or 10 days or whatever. And I learned my lesson. I'll never do that again, ever. I'll never buy perp things like that. Doesn't matter how liquid it is. I'm good. I'll buy in TradFi. I'll be safe. And I wanted to get your thoughts on tokenized stocks. Everybody says they're coming. I get the instant settlement. But are the boomers gonna accept this? We're gonna be trading on weekends?
So I'm torn on this because on one hand, I think that it's like the logical evolution for markets because everyone is awake at some point during the day and wants to trade markets. Running that system 24/7, it means there's no sleep. It means there's no rest for anyone that's like actively involved. It means that there's a market alive somewhere at any time. And that's generally true as it stands now. Like Bitcoin is tradable 24/7. Equity futures are tradable pretty much anytime except Friday night and Saturday and Sunday morning. And like I don't know if these are going to produce useful markets or if they're just going to be more of an observational thing. I think that blockchain obviously like has a lot of very powerful features for settlement instantly that brokers and others don't have. It's going to be a few years of infrastructure building, but I think we have all the tech we need to actually like make the trades and do leverage and options and things like that with tokenized stocks. We're already starting to see them come on with Hyperliquid. I don't think it's a question of like if we should, because I think it's inevitable. I think it's a question of how do we do this without ruining everyone's lives 24/7. Like I don't know if like people should be able to go 10x long on NVIDIA like they would on BitMEX or whatever, like especially without like going through any kind of like courses or learning or
Well, and what's the legality behind it? It's not legal.
yeah, that too.
Sorry,
yet.
guys. Yeah, not yet, right? Like it's not necessarily that there's not infrastructure for it. There's no regulatory bounds for it. There's no guidelines and guidance for it yet. And I think we're far from the guidelines and guidance and the infrastructure. We have clearinghouses and it takes T+2 days and everybody has to hold your money and touch your money and, before it gets settled out to you. I think it's going to be a lot harder than people think or say, but I don't know. Now we have Polymarket guy, getting hit and raided last year, and now is, on the New York floor ringing the bell and, partners with every company across the board. And, now he's like a savior with no real regulatory change from what I can see, just a regulatory less enforcement and more of a innovation space in the US versus what we saw in the previous administration.
And like I'm pretty happy with the new SEC administration. Like they're actually taking crypto seriously, and it's a breath of fresh air compared to like what we've had for the last like decade. Like, they're actually taking us very seriously. They're working with regulators. Like just the fact that Coinbase has some iteration of perpetual futures at this point is like I never thought I'd see the day.
No, they have
They're technically dated, but they're like, my understanding is that they're like set for like 20 years out or something. So it's like effectively perpetual, but they're not, but that's how they got around it. And that may change in the coming years, but it's still like, we did not used to have access to that kind of.
yeah, it's all coming and it's all coming fast. And if there's money to be made and that everybody can dip their hands into the pot, they're going to do it. And at some point, you also just can't say, oh, there's these people doing this thing on this crypto Twitter and, they're trading this stuff online. Like that, you also can't push people away, and you shouldn't want to push people away. You should want to have a safe space to incubate and a safe space to, Brazil has a great offering. They have a regulatory sandbox for major players, small players, and medium-sized, all size players to come and work with the government and basically do workshops live with the government, show the regulators what's happening, what they can do. Of course, the regulators make the laws at the end of the day. But once they started this regulatory sandbox and actually inviting people into a safe space to have positive conversation around crypto and sports betting and all kinds of different stuff, but mainly crypto in the next coming years for Brazil. It changed the landscape. The regulatory fellas and ladies, they see real companies, real people. They're dealing with real people every day, not just something online. And they end up making better decisions and better choices rather than being uninformed and just dropping the ball and signing something into law because it's somebody said it one time and it sounds good. You're getting to work with the government in a safe regulatory space, and it's really pushing Brazil forward. Of course, we have to have a sponsored by the Brazil Tourism Board. That's another crypto Twitter joke that people say because I always just talk about Brazil.
Definitely. And the US kind of like leads the world in a lot of things, like for better or worse. Like as soon as the US started opening up, the rest of the planet was like, okay, maybe we need to take crypto seriously beyond like, okay, we're going to allow leverage trading. Like now they're actually like letting people do tokenized assets. And we're seeing like JP Morgan is doing their own token for internal client deposits. And now we're seeing stable coins, too many stable coins, by the way, but a lot of stable coins coming online. What's really funny to me about, by the way, I just want to talk about stable coins for a second. Stable coins are really cool. People obviously love them around the world, especially down in Latin America where you are. But the funny thing to me is like Tether was doing these stable coins for years, literally years.
And they were the devil.
And no, they were the devil. But on top of that, like they weren't making very much money. There was zero rates or very low rates. And then suddenly COVID happened and they're printing billions of dollars and have like a 6-year head start on the stablecoin industry, printing billions of dollars each quarter, making tons of money. And everyone's suddenly like, I want to start a stablecoin. Now we have, I don't know how many we're up to at this point.
Thousands.
At least a few hundred, especially when you consider all the different jurisdictions. And then they all like get into stable coins and then Jerome starts cutting rates. And now the stable coins won't even be that profitable. Obviously, like their use and influence like has some intangible power and people want to be the owner or operator, issuer, whatever of these stable coins. But at the same time, like we're happy with USDT and Tether and maybe like 1 or 2 more. Like we don't need 17 for our particular currency of choice. And I'm worried that there's going to be too many stable coins, but at the same time, I don't see how that turns into like a tangible risk across or a contagion event across all crypto. But it seems like a lot of these stable coins are going to get started and then people are going to realize, actually, we don't need all of them. So we'll see what happens with that. But it's just so funny.
To me, it's not a risk. It's annoying thing to deal with. It's like having liquidity fragmented like we have with multiple chains right now. It's the same PayPal USD. Oh, but you can't swap PayPal USD for one-to-one for USDT or to Ripple's one or to any other stable. Maybe we'll get there eventually, sure. But like, even if you try to go buy USDT on some exchanges, it's still not one-to-one. You have crazy fees involved. Coinbase is, I think, the only, maybe Bitfinex, but with USDC, they're in bed with Circle and you can do one-to-one. Like, if it's a stable coin and it's one-to-one, you shouldn't be paying 1% to convert USD to USDC. This is just like milking users at this point, and is kind of dumb. But when you have this liquidity fragmentation, you have the same thing that we see with, oh, you have AVAX, you have Solana, you have ETH, you have L, you have so many layers, you have 59 layers of different companies. Like, it's called Monad. It's not Monad, but like, we don't need them. I'm sorry. Okay. We have enough. All right. And same with stable coins. We don't need more. And I get it that it's a wild west and everybody's trying to become the big head honcho, but less is more. There's also something with the American people or the regulatory framework or just the jurisdiction in general. The government never releases, like, in Brazil, we have Pix, which is basically Zelle, Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, all these various apps that America has, 5 to 10 payment apps all in one. If you have a bank account and a phone or an email or whatever, you have a Pix. You can send any amount of money instantly to your contacts. You can put, if you're not in my contacts, I want a limit of $500 or 10,000, whatever you want. Or if it's my contact, I want to be able to send unlimited, and it settles instantly. It's much, much better, but it is a product from the government. And at first, people were like, screw that. I don't want to use a government-based product. I think it was 2018. And now if you don't have Pix, you're screwed, because everybody has Pix, even the guy from the taxi to the guy on the beach selling something to, a donation to a school or something. They all accept Pix. And maybe it's, the first version of like a stable coin and tracking and, sure, but they're doing that anyways, right? So in America, you have 10 different Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, all this stuff, which doesn't make any sense. It's fragmenting liquidity and it doesn't talk to each other. And now they're just doing the same thing, but with stable coins. Like, let's have 50 stable coins that don't talk and convert. And, it is the network share, and I do get that, right? The more people you have on your platform, the more it goes up. But maybe I'll be the first one to say it. Maybe the government just needs to come out with like USD digital or whatever. It just moves. It's a wire transfer. It's a SWIFT transfer. Or maybe SWIFT needs to come up with a thing. Hey, we have every stablecoin in every jurisdiction around the world. You can send it for 50 cents, 10 cents instead of hundreds of dollars, $30 sending, receiving, and waiting. Some international transfers are like 10 days. You ever try to send money somewhere and it has to go to an intermediary bank and then to the beneficiary bank if you didn't put the right code, and it never gets there. It's lost, and you'll get it back in a week. And you're like, okay, well, that was a waste.
And you have to pay a metric ton of fees.
Imagine Swift was like, we just have Swift digital. It's every coin, every jurisdiction. We do it all. And it's instant, semi-instant, an hour, same day, whatever it is, 10 seconds, whatever, has to go through the regulatory loop, sure, before you can just, move stuff around. And of course, they need control to claw back and stuff like this. Nobody said it had to be a public blockchain, right? It could be a private blockchain. And all of that instant settlement stuff is fixed and settled. All it takes is a resurgence and shining the spotlight on it and get people talking about it, accepting it, and pushing it forward. We haven't seen this. We're just seeing everybody cash grabbing.
I don't think we're going to, especially because, well, at least in the US, Trump's made it like super clear that he does not want a central bank digital currency on the advice of the people that are, I assume, David Sachs, but who knows who else. And that's why we've kind of seen the private sector come out and be running these stable coins. I think the free market will ultimately decide on a handful of winners, and the rest will be like, why are we even doing this? And just kind of close them up. But we do need to see just the fact that we have banks that give no interest to us. And then on top of that, we have PayPal, Cash App, etc., it means something went wrong with the infrastructure when they built it out. It was not built for the web, and it's still running on this outdated infrastructure that doesn't allow us to transfer money easily. Like, why can I only send money in and out of my bank account with a debit card? It doesn't make any sense. It's not adapted for the 21st century at this point. They need to figure out some solution with that. And that's probably going to involve stablecoins, but I doubt they're ever going to do like a fully centralized federal US dollar. China obviously is very down with that.
Brazil is. It's from the central bank. Pix is from the central bank. Yeah, we're down with it because it works, bro. It actually works. Oh, sure, they're tracking you. They're doing that anyways. Like, oh,
That's
who cares?
true.
Yeah, like you have this argument. Oh, my cash. Like, go ahead, go try to deposit $100,000 into the bank. Go see what happens. Good luck. Go try to get on a plane with $100,000. Good luck. I dare you. Go have a good time. You still have old regulatory rules, and you still have to follow those. And it's going to take a little bit longer to get. All it takes, it actually could be really fast if everybody gets on the same page and everybody has the same conversations and everybody's in it to win it. But if we're having these different private sectors spreading money around, having different, 10,000 different stable coins, like where does that lead us? Kind of what we're seeing now with like all these different chains. Like you go swim in your island. Kozio, if he was here, he would say it. You have your home base, your home island, you go on vacation and you go to AVAX chain and whatever. But at the end of the day, you come back to your home base, whatever that is. If that's ETH, if that's Bitcoin or whatever, you go play in some other sandbox and then you come back. And it's kind of like what's happening with the PayPal, the Cash Apps, all this stuff. And then that's now what's happening with the stable coins. And of course, you want instant settlement. Nobody wants to pay crazy, ridiculous fees and wait days. It makes sense why it's happening and why everybody's pushing for it. But I think you said it best. Like, we have the free market and the free market will decide. And I think that will happen sooner rather than later. You'll see who has the most users, who has the biggest network share, and the rest will fall off, or maybe top 3, and then the rest will fall off.
Definitely. The reality is we don't know how this is going to shake out, and there's obviously an immense convenience of eCash, but it's also at the same time like it's the cypherpunk nightmare on some level. Even if the stablecoins settle in crypto, like it still uses a basis of US dollars, Brazil dollars, whatever they're called. Or Chinese yuan or whatever. The issue is that cash, or rather I should say fiat, is approaching kind of a breaking point where it's like, why are we printing so much of it? And the fundamentals of the stable coins in the long term may end up not holding true. So that's my concern. I think a lot of other crypto adjacent people feel the same way, even though the convenience factor is like huge with eCash. Like, you will not get me to like say eCash is inconvenient. It is the most convenient. It's the best way to do it, but that doesn't mean there aren't other external costs that you have to consider. And like, obviously mass society will embrace the path of least resistance just because that's how society is. I think we're going to get to a point where stablecoins are ubiquitous. I think that what we're seeing out of the Bridge acquisition from, not Cash App, what's the other payment company? Stripe.
They bought Bridge for a couple yards, right? Yeah.
Yep. And we're going to continue to see this kind of stuff because obviously stablecoins are this immense product that will be able to run rails of payments. On the plus side, this also means that they're going to start eating the bank's lunch. Like, even my own bank, they give me 0.8% interest on a money market account, and they give me like 0.2% interest on my savings. Like, I don't keep any money in there. I keep enough in there to like pay bills and stuff. And it's just an absolute rug. And our parents taught us to save in our savings accounts, and now that's just a complete joke. The people are yearning for a better solution, and stablecoins are obviously going to be part of that solution. But at the same time, the basis of the stablecoins is a rapidly inflating currency that is stealing purchasing power and not going anywhere. So, I mean, there's a lot of upside for stablecoins over the coming years. I don't want to rant about this forever, but they're going to be cool. They're going to be interesting, but we have to still remember, like, the core thesis of like crypto is that cash is not great. Even if it's a digital dollar, it's not great. The digital dollars are better, but still not great.
Yeah. Yeah, it's still not an asset. But it's also, if you have $100 million, you can sit on cash for a year and your life's not going to be inflated away
Correct.
in the first world country right now. Okay, sure. If you're in a third world country and you're, even Argentina was doing 1,000% there for a minute, like, yeah, you have a different situation. But if you're in a first world country, you can sit on cash. You'll be all right for a few years. You can put it to work.
If you have
You can
100
buy some
million, you're going to be
assets.
fine for life, honestly.
Even 100,000 for some people, right? Like, it's if you made 100K and you put it in the bank for a year, oh, it's still 100K next year. Sure, your purchasing power went down 2% or whatever. Okay, it's still 100K. Okay, at least you didn't go to zero. Shout out to the Watch King that always says, like, at least you parked 100K in a Patek, and the Patek is always worth 100K. Like, it might not go to 500K next year, but at least it's always worth, that 100K, or it's slowly ticking up. It is something to buy, to park cash, just like gold, just like silver. I guess that brings us into Metal Hour, the final segment of our this might be the longest. I don't like calling interviews. I like calling them fireside chats, because interviews, like, who are you? What do you do? But to keep it open, keep
Why
it
are you
flowing.
important?
Yeah, exactly. Tell us about yourself, and let's have a little Metal Hour. You single-handedly pumped and manipulated the price of gold, silver, and you've been a long-term bag holder. You want to give us a little bit of the thesis there? And I think we could have kind of timed the top with people lining up to buy physical. I think that was a clear sign that we were getting a little frothy. But where does it end? What's the price targets you have?
I'll start with the thesis. I started buying silver when Bitcoin was 200. So I'm a absolute idiot and no one should take my opinion seriously. But basically at the time I was like, I have enough Bitcoin if it ever takes off. And I just want to own some physical assets. And like, I don't know, literally one of my supervisors at work bullied me into buying some silver. So like, okay, I put $6,000 into silver, which was like at the time, like 30-40% of my net worth, which was in hindsight probably not a great idea. But I was just like, I want to diversify that. I got my 401k, I got all these stocks and Bitcoin and blah, blah, blah in different places. Like I should have some physical assets. And that's literally how my entire silver arc started. And I just kind of like kept adding to it over the years. Like I bought most of it like at 14, and then I bought more at like 20 in the 2020s, I should say, or the early 2020s after the big run. And I think the narrative with silver, metals, blah, 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 is that the world is slowly waking up to how fucking worthless fiat currency is. And obviously Bitcoin is great, and some select cryptocurrencies are good at certain times, and they go up and they appreciate rapidly against USD. But I think we're getting to this phase where everyone's starting to wake up to the con, and it's like, you need to own things that can't be printed. And whether that's a stock or whether that's cash or whatever, we're obviously in some kind of secular gold trend where we are going to keep going up as long as the printer keeps going up. Like I have no doubt in my mind that gold is going to go to 10,000. Silver is probably going to go to 1,000 by the end of the decade. I'm not married to that price target or anything, and I don't recommend anyone like go buy silver right this moment.
Hurry, clip it. Clip that. Clip that part.
No. And we're really just at this point where it's like fixed supply assets that can't be created out of nothing are valuable. And especially with silver, gold is already, as we know, like the best conductor on the planet. Like they use it in the space station, they use it in every computer, they use it in every phone. And silver is also an excellent conductor. They use it in every solar panel. It's relatively sterile. They use it for a lot of surgical equipment, I believe. But I don't want to sound like Peter Schiff where I'm like talking about the utility of metals and stuff. Obviously, like crypto is great for getting rich quickly in a bull market cycle. Like you can turn $500 into $1 million in some specific circumstances with crypto. But then you've got this wad of cash and you don't know what to do with it. And your options are Bitcoin and metals, effectively, or treasury assets. And the treasury is being inflated. But gold is kind of emerging as this like multi-generational, and it already kind of has, like way before any of this happened. And I just think we're kind of starting this commodity super cycle where cash is losing its luster. People are less interested in holding it long term, and they want to hold hard assets and things that, again, cannot be printed. And just to like speak on it from like a technical term, silver in particular has just been the most hated, shorted, unloved asset. I know because everyone reminds me when it goes down 4%. And yeah, that tracks. And silver relative valuation to like equities and everything else is at historic lows right now. And it, even though like it sucks to hold this for 10, 20 years, like I'm 12 years into this shit. This is ridiculous. I hate
How do you
this.
feel? Please tell us more.
I feel old. This is the reality. But we are going to see continued appreciation. Like even platinum is breaking out of a, I want to say like 15-year accumulation base. I think copper had a good month last month too. I can't remember. I don't really pay attention to copper.
Metal, palladium, platinum, anything that they could buy, they were buying. Like it was just up only. The only thing I want to buy, Dime, is I want to buy shiny, hot uranium rocks, yellow shining rocks.
Yellow cake. Okay.
Yellow
Feds,
cakes.
get this guy. Right. You're not even in the right country.
Let's get the physical, imagine you could buy a little physical and set it on your desk, it'd be great.
But
you have an exposure through uranium or Ura and other ETFs, but every metal was up. Gold's too expensive. People are buying platinum. What's the website? Ampex? Is that
Amex.
the Amex? Yeah, it's like insane. It was sold out. Everything was sold out. All the stuff on the small end was sold out. The largest Japanese retailer in Japan stopped selling the 5 and 10 gram bars, I think, like the small bars. But they were just
Costco's
sold
been
out.
sold out too.
Costco's out. There was a gold rush. There was people lining up to buy physicals. There was a rush for sure. And we saw a crash. If you bought the top, you're down a couple percent, but it's still above ETH. You're still doing well.
Absolutely. I've been having fun. Anyone that follows me on X knows that I've been running a comparison between ETH and silver, and I didn't think it would be that funny for that to be hilarious.
Dude, it's like midnight. I'm texting you like, do it, update it. You gotta do it.
It's so funny. But like to be honest, like as much as I don't like ETH, I was still expecting it to go to like $5,000 or something before the end of the cycle. Wait, actually?
It didn't start with a 5, but it got really close. It got to like 49.70s, 49.50. It was at 5.
Let me rephrase that. I was expecting ETH to like go higher.
10K. 10. Yeah, I was told 10.
7 or 9K, somewhere between 7 and 10K. Like that would have been like very acceptable to me. Not that I own ETH, but I was still just kind of like expecting it. And now I think it's red for the year.
It's down.
And silver's up 60%.
It's down 40% from the top, from the peak in August. It's down 7% year to date. It's up 16% on the month, but every other metric is red. Gold, even if you stood in line and bought the absolute peak of top, you're down 10%.
Which is
who
nothing.
Cares? Yeah, who cares? Yeah, who cares? Metal super cycle.
Going back, the other big thing that's like kind of like gold pilling me at the moment is that if you price equities, like especially SPX or even NASDAQ in gold ounces, I think at the Pico top, the gold was outperforming and Bitcoin obviously too over like if you market since like COVID began or whatever, you're losing money on pretty much everything except gold and Bitcoin. And now arguably
as a denominator, right?
As a denominator, the denominator is worthless. And we're seeing central banks buying. We're seeing Tether buying. Like they just started this year, I believe. I think back in like April or May, and they've now become like one of the largest holders of institutional private gold. And that's just like the world is recognizing that Bitcoin is great. Yeah, don't get me wrong. Like it's scarce, divisible, easily portable, has a lot of utility, and that is all a very solid value premise, but their gold is just classic. And do I think Bitcoin is going to continue to outperform gold for a few more years? Yes, absolutely. But at the same time, gold is physical. You can take it places with you. Like it's harder to get it over a border or something, but you'll have to pay taxes on it or whatever. And it's just something that is never going away. And they can't make more out of that of thin air. And again, going back to this theme of owning things that can't be printed in an inflationary fiat world is just smart. And Silico said this to me, I think like 2 or 3 years ago, crypto's for getting rich fast and metals are for staying rich. And that really stuck with me. And it's just like having even if you have 20 grand or 500 grand in gold, like, even if gold has a 40% bear market or something like it did in what was the bottom, 2015?
Yeah, it was flat for 10 years if you bought the top.
Yeah, like that was not fun. But even so, like gold never really goes out of style, and that was a 50% correction. That's nothing like Bitcoin.
You
going
could have
-80.
also melted your gold bars and made chains and wore it while you were down 50%. You know, you could also use it, not just look at bricks in a closet,
Yeah.
or in a storage vault. You can actually do stuff with it or wear it at least.
Yeah.
Can you
So
wear your Bitcoin? Little ledger loop.
yeah, that would get snatched real quick. So yeah, I mean, the trend is that here's the thing that set it off. Gold was pretty quiet. Like it obviously priced up in 2020, and then it just kind of went through this sideways period. And then we saw 2022 happen, and what big public geopolitical event happened? The Ukraine war. And I think Luke Groman on Twitter was like the first guy to like call this out as a third order effect. But basically, we froze all of Russia's assets, their cash assets, and confiscated it from them. And like they're still figuring out what they're going to do with that money. But I think that was a real like wake up call, not just for Russia.
There's a ship that's in San Diego that was seized. It's literally sitting at the naval base. It's a Russian oligarch's boat that was seized and is sitting at a naval base in Southern California. Like that's insane to think about.
But that's peanuts compared to billions of dollars of sovereign cash that was confiscated via
Sure.
the U.S.
I mean, it's all
system.
in one bundle, right?
Or
it's
SWIFT or whatever
bundle.
it was. But my point is like Russia saw that and China saw that, and every other major world leader that's holding U.S. treasuries or even just cash, USD, saw that and they were like, fuck this, we need to own gold. That pivotal moment in 2022.
Physical gold
that they have custody over in their borders. And after we saw that, all of the central banks started buying gold, especially like ones that have more precarious relations with the United States. We've seen China is getting rid of some of their treasuries, and they've been offloading them the last few years because they don't want to hold debt. They want to hold hard physical assets. And my point is simply like the time of cash is like coming to an end, whether that means we're transferring to eCash, Bitcoin, or back to physical gold, which I don't think is going to happen. The reality is that gold can still appreciate in a world where every government on the planet needs to own it just as a matter of national security. And until that changes, gold is still going to keep going up. But I think gold 10,000 is inevitable, and that probably means silver 1,000 is inevitable. These are not price predictions, and don't tail me on this, and this is not financial advice, but over like the next 20 years, I think we're going to see a commodity super cycle of some form, and we're already starting to see it start to play out. We're probably on like the second leg of it, and there's probably like 4 or 5 more legs before this is actually done. But yeah, I mean, the money supply has gotten ridiculous. Crypto and everything else is a symptom of all of this money printing. And obviously, Bitcoin is going to continue to be extremely relevant over the coming years. But there's something classic about holding physical metals in general. I don't know if you've ever held a 100-ounce silver bar in your hand. Part of the reason
bought the top, dude. You don't remember?
Physical though?
Yeah, I ordered from that Ampex store. I'm awaiting delivery. I bought literally the top.
Got it.
I bought the top. I bought a spinning top, gold, of course, just to look at in front of the desk. I bought a silver bar that was like, whatever, a couple grand, nothing crazy. And then I was looking at my buddy's kid loves Legos. There's like a gold Lego or something. I was like, that would be so funny to buy him, but he's like 4. So like maybe we shouldn't give a 4-year-old a golden brick.
Probably not. Well,
it stacks, it clips together. It's like a solid gold one. It's so good.
The point I was trying to make though is like part of the reason I ended up holding silver for so long is like, one, it's wasn't worth liquidating at these prices, and it's still not. But like when you actually hold a physical silver bar, there's just like this primal part of my brain. It's like, this has some heft to it and it feels important, like on a real like human evolutionary scale. Like it feels important. And maybe when you get your silver bar, you'll share the same feeling. I don't know, like just that feeling kind of like led me to hold on and decide that I should buy more of this. This is important. And of course, now all those 100-ounce bars are worth, I haven't even checked 100 times 50s, 5,000. So
5Gs,
that's
yeah.
crazy. I was buying them for like 1,400 back in the day. And now that they've obviously appreciated, and it's just crazy to me that I'm seeing it play out. But on things that can't be printed is the short thesis that I think people need to recognize.
I think it also comes down to just like how they shield a mortgage and owning a home on regular people, like that is basically just a more complex savings account that you just can't liquidate instantly. You can't just click a button and sell a house. I probably could, okay, but you know what I mean? Like it takes, you live in the house, you have things in the house, you need to move before you can sell the house. Well, same thing with physicals. Like, hey, you're gonna load up the car, you're gonna drive down to the store, you're like, I don't have time for this crap. I'll just hold on to it. And if all of your bills are paid and you have income, whether it's from a job or whether it's from other investments, whether it's from dividends, whether it's from, I don't know, you're a trust fund baby and you don't need to liquidate, because a lot of people don't have excess cash and you don't have to liquidate goods to pay this month's rent, then you're sitting in a different situation that you're just accumulating. I mean, what is the easiest thing or what are the easiest things to hold and do nothing? That's
Yeah,
hard assets, right? Like, I
right.
mean, gold, silver, Bitcoin, people like the real estate because you can leverage it up and, you're in the system and you have funny money in the system and you got mortgages and you got loans and you got all, sure, tenants and cash flow. Okay, sure. There's a business model there. Or you can look at equities, but picking single name equities is very hard. Owning the index is much easier for the individual player. But if you can kind of sniff out good companies that have good management, good leadership, good cash flow, good revenues, that's an easy game to play. I'm going to hold it. Like the Buffett game, I don't know, like seems kind of easy. Buy Coca-Cola, hold it for 50 years. Buy Geico, hold it for 40 years. Buy Apple and they came out with the iPhone, buy Apple and hold it for 15 years. Like it's a hard game to hold it, but it's an easy game to do nothing. Like as long as you're not trying to worry about this month's rent or this month's car payment, which, the majority of people are.
The reality of markets is that currency is not the currency of markets. It's time, because time, of course, reveals all things. It's the one thing that we all have until we don't, but it's the only thing that moves things up and down. And Warren Buffett obviously got 96 years or however old he is of life, and that gave him an opportunity to compound wealth on a level that we really have never seen before. And it worked, and his methods worked at Berkshire. But yeah, I mean,
I want to add there, the wealth that grew was not just for him, but for everybody involved. It wasn't just him that got rich. Everybody that was a believer in him in Berkshire is wealthy and rich, and they have a cult following. They have that annual summit that generation, from kid to grandkids are now going. It's a somewhat like a cult like following. I think even Jeff Bezos says that, like, oh yeah, I have 100 billion, but I've made $1 trillion for other people. Like, it's not just you didn't get lucky, right? These people, they didn't just get that lucky. They invested the time, the effort, money, and everything that they had in them to provide and do the best for their investors, basically.
yeah, I mean, and that's really the only real trickle down economics that actually holds true. Because like Elon's doing the same thing, Palantir's doing the same thing. Like these are multi-generational assets potentially. Maybe not Palantir in that category, but we're going to reach a point where these companies are just, you own them as a ubiquitous wealth generation asset until
And why sell?
Markets stop functioning. Yeah, I mean, why sell? There's not a lot of people that would attend and give a standing ovation for a final speech like they did with Warren Buffett. Like he's an icon of American capitalism at this point. And he obviously like made entire dynasties out of Berkshire Hathaway, and he should be immensely proud of that. But it goes back to my original thesis of like time is the currency of markets. It's not dollars. It's just like you're not just putting dollars into markets, you're putting time and opportunity into markets. And that is producing a better future for you. Like that's why we're all here. We're all here to make money and to produce some kind of financial safety net for our lives so that we don't end up working at McDonald's or whatever.
And some of you might. Some of the listeners might.
And there's nothing wrong with like crawling out of the gutters at McDonald's. Like some
Of course
people
not.
have had to do it. I mean, I'm trying to aim.
Chamath is from Burger King. He used to work at Burger King, dude. Chamath is now selling retail SPACs. So, you can do anything that you want.
I was about to say unforgivable SPACs, but
Unforgivable. The best SPACs, the greatest American SPACs, the best. Well, Dime, we went over our initial 30. We hit an hour and 30. Is there
Darn.
anything else you want to leave?
Did you want to talk
listen.
about the cycle, the Bitcoin cycle?
Let the people know. Is it over? I mean, we've been talking about it for an hour, but it's, in my mind, we're in this super cycle. Fiat goes to zero and Bitcoin goes up forever on whatever timeline that is. That's like my one liner.
Yeah, no, that's the right way to do it. I think people like probably want like a more exact answer on how I'm thinking about it. And I've tried to like beat this into people. I've been posting about like a potential top since August, and we're pretty much at the same price level all of August to October, and then finally we resolved down this month and last month. I think what the one takeaway people should have is that the cycles are a psychological thing. But just because they're psychological doesn't mean that you can't leverage them. And there's people who are already trying to buy the dip right now. And maybe they're right. Maybe this is the beginning of the super cycle and everything is going to go great. And you're going to wake up richer in 6 months. But we are starting to see problems in the equity market. We are starting to see Bitcoin price down, and similar to 2021, Bitcoin topped first and the equities fell like 3 or 4 months later. And on top of that, we topped exactly at the time that I said we would, which means that someone is still paying attention to the cycle math. And maybe it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Maybe it's just fate, but we've been going up nonstop for 2.5, 3 years now. There's nothing wrong with taking profits and buying the dip, even if that dip is a ways from now. And if things repeat the way I think they're going to repeat, we have a year-long downtrend, even if that means we do a little down and a lot of sideways. But if the cycles repeat, we're not going to be in a bull market until after October of 2026. So that's my piece. I just think people need to recognize that there is like a big psychological aspect here. And until we have a reason to think that the cycles are not repeating, we should assume that they are.
If the whales, I think Cozy said it, if the whales believe it, then why wouldn't it happen? As always, right? If the biggest players think that it's going to happen and they're the ones with the most supply, dude, imagine being a whale and dumping on institution's head at 124K and you're like, haha,
they definitely
we're in a Telegram chat. We're in a Telegram chat with all the whale buddies talking shit about you. Have fun, with your 1 year downtrend. October next year, you're saying.
I remember that that $6 billion, I think it was $6 billion sell that came in on the 4th of July. I remember because I was at the Gorge Amphitheater out here in Washington, and I was just like on my phone waiting for the show to start and saw this come in, and I was like, oh, fuck. I think it's a crazy amount of money to move. I think they sold via Galaxy, via an OTC transaction. I'm just like,
was it like 8K Bitcoin or something?
It was It was something.
That one, I think. Yeah. There was that one. And then just last week, there was a guy who had held for 11 years or whatever, 12 years. And he dumped everything it was like a few small clips. And then he dumped everything in one clip. And then, of course, now we're here 10K lower. As for ETH, good luck. I'm not sure exactly. As for Solana, I'm not sure. Bitcoin will be here forever. Other things have competitions. I'm not sure that have you looked? I'm not a TA guy, but the weekly chart is absolutely horrid. Everything.
Yeah.
On Bitcoin. No, on Bitcoin. I mean, ETH is literally the same price as April 2021. It's the same price for 4 years, 4.5 years. Bitcoin is actually up from like the election run, which was like September to November. It's we're still not at, 60K? If we get back down into 60, Saylor has a little bit of an issue at mid 70s, high 70s. He doesn't have to be forced sold and liquidated, and he can still hold and all of this. As long as people keep letting him raise, he can pay the bills with the legacy software company, or he can restructure the debt, which there's always shops that will restructure and restructure and restructure again. Then we have no problem. But if he at some point he can't pay those bills and he becomes a forced seller, I think we have an issue on our hands. And if you look, we've been going down since October 6th was kind of like the high, right? We're way lower than 10. We're 15K lower or something, 18K lower. Sure, we could see a bounce to 110, but the down or 100 or whatever meme lines you want to draw. The trend is probably down as stocks and the little AI bubble start to burst for a little bit. We were strong investors in the CoreWeave, both you and I,
And
and you
that
see
we
what
got
happens.
bodied.
Well, you see what happens when everything's going good in the super cycle and the AI cycle, and you miss by 1/4. The market is ruthless. They do not care. They will short the shit out of your stock, and your stock's going to zero. If you don't hit your guidelines and you're not putting out insane numbers, then we're going to send you to zero and closer to zero. So we have NVIDIA tomorrow. I think this is gonna come out 2 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. So you're gonna be listening to the end of this right before earnings. Maybe we'll make a note for people to skip to the end or watch it in reverse. But NVIDIA earnings tomorrow, post market. What do we got? Let's wrap it up there.
All right, that's fine.
We can keep
Thanks for
going.
having me, Marty.
Oh no! What do we have? NVIDIA earnings. You have to tell us, Dime.
I don't know. The NVIDIA thing has gotten so complicated. I bought a YOLO put just for kicks, just like
I like it.
Just
I think its expected move is 7% move tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll find out. I just kind of bought it on a whim. I didn't look too deeply into it. I was gonna rattle off the other technical things. Since you're not really a technicals guy, I was gonna rattle off the other technical things I saw with
Fire
Bitcoin.
away. We got.
You sure?
Shoot. Oh, I got time. Fire away.
I'm gonna rapid fire this. And this is how I kind of suspected that the Bitcoin top is approaching. We saw all the digital asset treasury companies nuke. They all their premium evaporated, and they don't necessarily need to trade with a premium, but they all went to zero. And that was the first sign that no one was willing to pay a premium for Bitcoin. Then we saw MicroStrategy basically
under NAV today.
But from a more technical standpoint, it was trading under the 200 SMA for the first time since 2023, early 2023, but in the bear market. And that was another sign that people were no longer willing to pay a premium. And this was happening a month before Bitcoin actually started really pulling back. Now, Bitcoin has obeyed to the T, the 50-week moving average, exponential moving average. It has been our Pico bottom for the last 2.5 years. And it has been obeying that like a boss. And this week was the first week that we closed below it. And price obviously went even deeper. We've also been respecting the 365-day rolling VWAP like a champ. And this week we violated it. So I think we're going to bounce in December. There's no way that we don't, honestly. But I think the destination is further down unless Trump actually slams the bid on Bitcoin and starts buying for the strategic Bitcoin reserve. We'll see what happens, but I suspect that this bear market just saw its first clear structure break, and bounce or not, it's going lower. And again, my thought is hold cash until about a year from now and start allocating when everyone hates crypto. We're not there yet. And we still have Gemini telling us to buy the dip. You're never going to be able to buy Bitcoin under 80,000.
Yeah, shut
I'm
up.
You want to fucking bet? Come on.
1 minute later, it goes back down. I mean, okay, let's say we bounce, we get a solid bounce, 110. I mean, there's nothing to say that we can't go back to April lows of 70s, mid 70s.
Yeah,
and you also have why would Trump want to buy Bitcoin at 124 when he can buy it at 60s, 70s? It's on sale,
one of the funniest things that people said to me at the top.
What do you got?
They're like, Joe, Trump's buying Bitcoin. Oh, he's not buying the top. And I'm like, no, you didn't read the article. He's buying Bitcoin and has an option strategy, which means, and they say that in the article. And you know what that means? That means that they are absolutely delta neutral on the entire investment. They put, I don't know, $10 million or however much into their option strategy, hedging that.
Hedging all of it. Yeah.
I forget how much of it is. They're probably even they're probably net short, to be quite honest. But no matter what Bitcoin does, they will win. Because that's just how you manage risks on a professional option.
Well, this is not just with options, but with all of this ETF inflow. Oh, it's the greatest ETF inflow ever. There was billions of dollars. Sure, people are accumulating IBIT, but on the back end, go pair that, or not even on the right parallel to it, right side by side. They're pairing it with short futures and basis is 11% and basis it's better than cash. We can, hold this asset and just roll futures contracts every quarter and get paid. Like that was always an argument for me. Like, sure, the inflows are insane, but also the inflows of short futures is insane. The market is maturing, the basis, came down a little bit, but you have more sophisticated players like, I don't know what it was, like these people were, oh, this hedge fund is long billions of dollars of Bitcoin. And you're like, who cares?
Who
Like,
cares?
Who cares? They're not doing that, but best of luck to you. Sure, if that's what you think. And of course we go up and now, we're going down. What happens when they unwind those positions? They're buying back the futures or they sell the spot and they don't roll. What happens? Like, you would think a sophisticated player has a strategy, but at what point are they like, basis isn't good enough? We're going to do something else. And they have billions of IBIT that they need to start dumping, and they're not pairing with futures anymore on the back end, and they're just done with crypto, right? You have more, not risks, more powers that be than just, crypto Twitter clicking buttons. There's actual people with real money moving the markets. It's not you and your, $10 bid. It's also very algo driven. I know I'm not much of a TA guy, but when we start losing those bigger levels and those affect some people's algos and they'll just start hammering it down. They'll just start being net short. There's a lot of powers that be here, which is new to Bitcoin because before it was just people clicking buttons.
One final thing I'm going to add about IBIT, and then let's close this up. But I posted about this today. The Pico top of the Bitcoin market was IBIT hitting 100 billion assets under management. Now they reported the next day because I believe they're T+1, but they reported it on like the 13th or something. But I'm pretty sure that as soon as IBIT hit 100 billion on 10, was it 10? Yeah, it was, I guess, let me pull my chart.
At the beginning of October, 6.
Beginning of October. That was the exact date that they hit 100 billion is my suspicion. And the market loves those big, obscure, round numbers that only institutions look at. And we have been
And then all the whales in Telegram were like, yeah, let's just fucking nuke it. We'll be able to buy 20% lower.
Yeah, I think I was one of the only people that called that out the week it happened. I was like, that feels like a nice big toppy number. And obviously I was right.
We're down 30% since.
Yep. But yeah, I think we can put a pin on things from there. Thank you for having me. This is fun.
It's been great. You should do
it
more,
again.
Dude. You're a great speaker and you carry the conversation. I don't want to name names or point fingers, but sometimes we get on the call and they have nothing to say, or it's not that they're not interesting. Maybe they have the stage fright. They're not comfortable speaking into the void with no, video or no facial reactions from somebody else. Usually we have our 3D avatars, but we had to record this a little bit earlier so we could put it up tomorrow instead of being live. So if you're listening, it was pre-recorded. Usually we have our little 3D avatar, so it makes it a little more interesting. It's less of a podcast because it tracks your eyes, it tracks your hands, it tracks your mouth. You can make it do gestures and stuff. But, sometimes you need the guest to carry the conversation. We went for, 2 hours and I'm basically the Joe Rogan of crypto Twitter. We're just keeping it going. Spotify, if you want to give me a deal, I'll take half of Joe Rogan's deal.
I'll take $1 less than Marty.
Yep. We're starting a bidding war. Anything you want to leave the listeners with? And then I think you got to stay around I'll end it. And then we got to stay around for a minute while it uploads offline.
I would just say, don't be in a rush to continue the behaviors that made you money in the last 3 years. We don't know what happens next, and we're extremely overdue for some kind of correction. And bear markets go down, but sometimes they go up, but they mostly go down. But just don't blow your whole load buying near the top if you don't have a reason to, other than the fact that you want to.
On leverage. I would add on leverage. If you want to blow your top and blow your load in spot, who cares? At the top, who cares? You're probably going to be fine, hold the down draw. If you never sell, you don't lose. I don't know if you knew that, but you don't lose money until you sell. But, if you're trying to buy this on 10x leverage, 50x leverage, and it goes down 5%, 2%, you're screwed. Best of luck to all players in the arena. Dime, it was a pleasure.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me. I'll see you next time.
All right.